So here we are in Addu, in Addu, on the island of Addu, in the southernmost atoll of the Maldives. This is kind of going to be our home base during the 2000 trip, because this is where NAJ is from. This is a hometown, and this is a grandma's place. So from here we're going to be heading off in a few weeks, but we're making final preparations while we're here, and for me that's involved a lot of research just to make sure I'm up to speed with everything we might find when we're out there. Now, one of the best sources for doing that is still today HCP Bell's monograph on the Maldives, which was published in 1940, but it's based on research he did here in 1922, or most of it is. Now, when he was here, he was mainly looking for the remnants of the Buddhist civilization pre-12th century, but he spent a couple of days on Addu looking at a 16th century fort, and if the stories he heard about the fort are true, it's of a lot of historical significance. So we thought we'd go and see if we could locate the site, because Koattey actually means fort in Divehi, but people don't really seem to associate it with that 16th century fort. Today it's more famous as a mangrove area, as a natural sort of unspoiled habitat, but we have actually found, or we believe, there's a lot of human habitation and evidence of former human communities up there, as well as the bird communities that people go and see today. So we got 5 basic characteristics that we're going to be looking for in the site that potentially will be our fort, based on the clues left behind in Bell's monograph. Now, number 1, it's going to be in the northeast of the island in the Koattey area. That's a given. It's going to have a beddie area to the west, which is the shallow lagoon area. It's going to have beach close by on the east. Graves, we're looking for graves to the north of the site and above. The trees are either going to be non-existent, as they were 94 years ago, or we would expect to see some kind of alternative tree cover or vegetation compared to what's in the surrounding area. So using those 5 points in our head, a little treasure map, we're going to go out tomorrow and have a little snoop around Koattey and see if we can find ourselves a fort. Okay, here we are at site 1. We're going to call this the English house for reasons I'm about to explain. This is we came here first because we could see from aerial shots, and shots even on Google Maps, you can see there's a different tree cover here. It's clearly been cleared away at some point in the not too distant past, and new vegetation has grown back. So this is the reason we came here, and it's a close fit. 4 out of 5, I think, of the points we identified of Bell's clues you can find here. It's right on the point of the channel. You can see this was an important area, perhaps for defense, looking out on the equatorial channel here. It's obviously an important area over the years. We can't find those graves. This is the one missing clue, the main missing clue. We can't find those graves in this area, so it doesn't seem to be a match for those reasons. But more importantly than that, you can see that this is clearly a more modern structure. You can see these remains even from the road. Anybody who comes around here can see these, and the common consensus is that this is something dating from the Second World War, when the British were here. They turned the whole atoll into what was called Port T as part of attempts to keep the Japanese out of the area. And this looks to me like this may have been the remains of a telecommunications station. There was an attempt in 1944 to build permanent telecom stations with radar rooms and radios and people staffing them, but it was never finished, and this looks like maybe one of the areas that was started but not finished. You can even see this pieces of metal sticking out of these pillars here, so it looks like that's probably what it was for. We're not the first people who came here looking for something older. Thor Heyerdahl, the Norwegian explorer, he was actually brought here in the 80s by an enthusiastic islander who said, I've got something interesting to show you, it's really old, and he brought them up here, and they were all incredibly disappointed when they were shown what the islander said was the English house. So we're not disappointed. We think it's a really interesting site, but it's not exactly what we're looking for. So to summarize, site 1, the English house, it's a close match. We got 4 out of 5 of the clues that fit here, but no grave. Is clearly too modern a site, and we believe that this is something from the Second World War. So unfortunately, no match. Let's go on to the second site. Site number 2, we thought we'd come here to Videography because someone told us there was something interesting we should come and see. Now, Videography itself is interesting. Fannu is the Divehi word for where the path meets the beach. So that's what this area is here, but Vihara is an indication that there was a Buddhist settlement in the area because Vihara is a Sanskrit word for a Buddhist monastery. And Bell, when he came here looking for evidence of these Buddhist communities, he did find a Vihara up in Lamugan. So I don't know if there's any evidence of these kind of remains here today. I don't know if anybody's ever really looked for them. Maybe someone who's watching this video can come out here and have a dig around the jungle. They might find something that nobody else has. But this is an interesting area for us because of what's around the corner. So we're going to go around there and have a look. So follow me. So here we are just a few yards down the road from Videography, and you can see here there's a grave site which, apart from being more evidence of a long history of human habitation, this is also an important clue that will help us in our search for the right location for this fort. We've done a little bit of asking around about the identity of the person who's buried here, and it actually happens by coincidence, although maybe not much of a coincidence in small island. But this is Naj's great uncle. His name is Ahmed Manikofanu, and he came fishing. He was a guy that didn't go out that often, but one day he came fishing, but unfortunately he couldn't swim. And 3 days later they found him, and this is where he's buried. This is the way people are buried when they drown, when they're found maybe on the beach or out in the ocean. They get buried close to the shore and away from other grave sites. So that's going to be important for when we go to the site 2. So let's go to site 2. So we were asking around about potential sites that may be the location of a fort or places people don't know about, and we came across the caretaker on our trip around Koattey, and he brought us here and told us that not many people know about this place, and we'd actually been roughly in this area before, because just out here is a bare area. There's no tree cover, so this is what attracted us here, and it vaguely fits 4 of the 5 clues that Bell gave in terms of the location. But also now we find to the north of the area this grave site. The only problem being that this is not just a couple of isolated graves that Bell mentioned, the type maybe that we saw up on Videography with Ahmed's grave. This is clearly a whole graveyard, and maybe even there was a mosque around the corner here. So there's no way Bell would have come here and not mentioned this and the general extent of the burial site here. So site number 2, the graveyard, it's definitely another interesting site that we found. It's not the fort. It fits most of the clues. I'd say 4 out of 5, maybe even 5 out of 5, but it's obviously not the same graves that Bell described. This is not going to be a match for the fort, so let's head to site 3. So after the caretaker took us to see the grave site that we've called Site 2, he was kind enough to bring us here and show us another set of graves which not many people know about. We're actually back now over towards the English house, so we're almost back where we started, and these graves seem to match exactly the kind of graves described by Bell. If you also think about the graves we saw up at Videography, Ahmed who drowned, these seem very similar. So it looks like the only thing to do is head south from here and see what we find. So we we've headed south from the graves, just a few yards away from us now, and we're very close to the beach, and all this seems to match the description that Bell gave of the site. We got the beach to the east, we got the lagoon area just over here to the west. The tree cover, you can see it's not grown back substantially, but there is some growth over here which suggests that people may have been taking rocks from here as he described over the centuries, but they certainly stopped a long time ago, and the trees have grown back. Now you can see all around me there's an unusual level of rubble. I mean, there's coral stones all over this part of the island. I mean, it's a coral atoll, but these seem much more substantial. There seems to be a lot more rubble here, and it seems to match very, very closely with what Bell described, in particular the heat, which has also survived. Yeah, in conclusion, I really think that we followed the clues to the natural conclusion, and this looks like the site of this fort. The historical importance of the fort, as we talked about before, it's not entirely known. There are some thoughts that a man by the name of Kalau Ibrahim Takrafanu came down here after falling into some kind of dispute with the Sultan, and that perhaps the Bodo Takrafan and the famous independence heroes may also have been here. There is a similar site in Huvadu, which looks south across the equatorial channel, which is hopefully a place we'll get to visit on our travels. But if there's something here, we think we found it. So, in our search for just a little bit of Addu's history, we found all sorts of clues to the island's past. In small atoll communities like this, and in areas like Koattey, these histories are every bit as vulnerable as the natural environment is to modern developments, but preservation of the past is just as vital for maintaining the country's cultural future. So we urge people to learn more about the history around them in order to protect it for the next generation, and we urge people to come themselves to the Koattey area to see what they can find. Well, thanks for watching our video, and we'll see you again soon.